Hey everyone, I'm Bill. I'm with Cali Moto TV. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Blasting Lab. And welcome back, Stewie, to a video you are going to be very upset with. Unfortunately, today we take our final ride on the 2010 BMW HP2 Sport. Now let me explain myself to you guys just a little bit. We're here at the Blasting Lab and today we do the final cleaning on this because the bike does go up for consignment sale on Saturday over at Eurocycle Sonoma. Zach, thank you for taking this bike in. It's a specialty bike, so I wanted to make sure this thing was represented in a good fashion. And well, with Zach, you guys can finance this. So if this is a bike you guys are actually interested in, if you guys are here in the California or here in the United States, Eurocycle can ship this bike to you anywhere. But like I said, let me explain myself. I am very adamant about my bikes and them being ridden. And you guys know I've only ridden this bike about a half dozen times and I've owned it for over a year. I firmly believe if something's just sitting, it's not something worthy enough to have in the collection. Now, this bike is worthy enough to be having in the collection, but I just don't ride it enough because I don't want to say I'm scared to ride the bike. I'm scared of something happening to the bike. And so really it just sits in the garage and I really want it to go to a good home. Somebody that'll appreciate this bike. Not that I don't appreciate it. I love this bike. It's a dream bike of mine, but I really want somebody to enjoy it as well. So if you guys are interested in the 2010 BMW HP2 Sport, there's 62 of these brought to the United States. It is up for sale over at Eurocycles. Hit Zach up. But without further ado, let's get geared up. We're going to take this thing out on its final ride, and then we're going to get it back here and do a final cleaning on it and get it over to Zach. So let's get geared up and out on the road. All right, guys. Well, here we are. The final ride on the 2010 BMW HP2 Sport. And if the area looks familiar, this is exactly the same ride that I did on the BMW R9T Racer before I sold it and its final ride. So today we're going to take you out on a little ride, our final ride before we get a nice cleaning on this and get it over to Zach. But man, I've really enjoyed the bike, but I haven't enjoyed the bike enough, if you know what I mean. So, you know, me and Bogna, we are kind of firm believers in, you know, if we're gonna have something, we want to use it and we want to be able to enjoy it. And although I enjoy this bike and I do enjoy riding it, I haven't enjoyed riding it enough because, you know, I just worry about riding this bike, and you shouldn't really have to. But this is a type of bike that, unfortunately, there is nothing available for this bike. There are no additional parts, there's no aftermarket parts, and it's not really a bike that we want to do aftermarket on anyways. That's why we've never done any modification videos to this. The only thing that I considered doing to this bike was adding the Akabovic system, which is astronomically expensive. But I thought, you know what? Here comes the copper, so we'll get this thing down to speed. But I thought, you know, if that's something that we could fit on this bike, that would be worth the add-on. But unfortunately, I was unable to find one, and so, you know, it's kind of, the bike is just really sat stock as it is. Now, we've ridden this a couple times. The last 2 times outside of the time that we rode at Laguna Seca at the track, which was a pleasure to be able to ride this thing at the track because that's where it's derived from. This is really a derived track bike, a race bike, turned into a street bike so that BMW could produce this as a race production bike. And so the last 2 times I rode it on the street, Officer Perez has visited me. And so the bike it's so crazy because the bike, I mean, it just doesn't feel like we're going as fast as we're going. This bike just, first of all, it feels really good. It's a little bit hard to ride because it's more of a sport bike, and I'm kind of used to the naked bikes now. So getting on a sport bike and a bike that derives from a race heritage is a little bit different. But I don't know, it just, I haven't been able to enjoy this bike enough, and it sits in the garage, and every once in a while I just kind of uncover it and look at it. But I really want the bike to go to somebody that's going to enjoy the bike, at least for a little bit of rides. Now, we usually clock, 100 to 200 miles on most of our rides that we go on. So we don't really just go down to the coffee shop, which I don't want to say this is necessarily that bike, but with the limited production on this bike and the rarity of this bike, that's really what this bike needs to become. Because you don't want to take it out on the track and risk wrecking it, because then it's one less. And so needless to say, Wagner's been telling me to sell this thing for 6 months, and I haven't ridden it in 6 months. And so the other day I uncovered the bike, and I said, I think it's time to go. I called Zach, and Zach was like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm not enjoying the bike, and I want to enjoy it, and it's I want somebody else to enjoy this bike. So it is a rare bike. If you guys are interested in this is your kind of bike. If you guys are here in California, it's in Eurocycle Sonoma, but Eurocycle does ship US wide side. So if you guys are somewhere else in the United States and you guys are interested in this bike, then hit Zach up at Eurocycle Sonoma. Of course, I'll link out all the listing and everything down below. But currently, there are no other HP2 Sports available on the market currently. That could change. When I bought this bike last year, there were 2 available, both of them in LA, both of them 2010s. And this one was in the far better condition. Now, this bike does have 7,800 enjoyed miles. The people before me definitely enjoyed the bike, and that was one of the reasons why I chose this bike. The other bike they wanted a lot more money for, about $2,000 more, but it had a little bit less miles on it. But I worry about a bike that's been sitting, and I don't want a bike with low or no miles, because you don't know if you've experienced anything of issues, or if it just sitting has created issues. So the bike is currently set up for the track, so the suspension is very, very hard. So I apologize, it's not really meant to be out on the street right now, but it's a fucking Bronco right now. But I just really enjoyed the bike the time that I had it. So I hope somebody out there sees this, and I hope you guys are going to be the new future owner. But this time last year, actually it was about I think June last year, I decided that I was going to purchase the bike on a whim. It wasn't a bike that I was actually looking to purchase. Boss Exhaust company out of Europe, somewhere, Amsterdam or somewhere over there. They posted a picture of one of these bikes, and I've told the story before, but I was sitting on the couch one night and I saw the picture, and I started cruising around, and it was at Gary at San Diego BMW, and I called Gary the next day and I said, it's a bike that I'm interested in that you have. And he says, oh, the HP2 Sport, huh? He knew immediately. And yeah, I flew down there a week later and purchased the bike, and I've enjoyed the bike again, but just not enough. And it's not something that you guys really came around to, only because, well, I don't enjoy it enough, so I don't ride it enough. But I think a lot of you guys are here to watch modifications of the bikes. I think that that's what you guys really enjoy. You guys enjoy me working on the bikes and doing add-ons to the bikes. And again, this is not a bike that you really do that to. So, but the Boxer is such a fantastic motor, and this was the highest output air-cooled. This is an air oil-cooled motor. It was the highest output horsepower output that BMW ever made. So if you wanted a air or oil/oil cooled Boxer motor 1200 series, this was the highest output horsepower. Now even the water cooled right now aren't much higher horsepower, but this was Mac Daddy for the time. And of course, you know, it has basically all the carbon fiber bits that you can think of with this bike. It's got, you know, whole body is painted over an exposed carbon. The whole body is carbon fiber. The rear tail, actually it doesn't even have a subframe. The seat is sitting on the rear of the frame of the motorcycle where the motor is mounted, and the tail of this is basically just the exhaust. And so it's really a very light bike. It is a large wheel-based bike, and when I ride it, that's one of the things that kind of throws me off with this bike. Is I kind of initially thought it was a weight issue, but then I kind of thought it's definitely a wheelbase issue. This has got a lot longer of a wheelbase, so turning this bike isn't as easy. So pass in a corner. Thank you, sir, though, I appreciate it. So yeah, you know, and it coming off of a bike like the BMW S1000R or the Street Fighter, you know, those bikes are crazy easy to turn and whatnot. So get down here for our final little drag race down. And it's not the fastest thing in the collection, but it's just the joy of the experience of this bike has been just that, a joy, a pleasure owning. It's such a rare bike, and really it's not a bike that most people ever know what it is. You know, you kind of look at the front and you kind of think, oh, old Gixxer, which that's what Bogdan thinks. But then you start looking at this bike and you get the big old Boxer motor and the single-sided swing arm, which is just so cool. It just yeah, it's and the rarity of these bikes, especially for the 2010, because 2010, I believe, if my understanding is correct, they cut production short of this. I'm gonna pull over here and see if we can grab this shade. They cut production of this bike a little bit short, and one of the reasons why is it was right at the release of the 2010 BMW S1000R, and so this was kind of BMW's sport bike for the time. Get that turned off, get out of the street. And yeah, so with the new S1000RR coming out, they stopped production on this early, and from what I can see number wise, this and from the research that I've done, in 2010 only 62 of these came to the United States, and they're getting, of course, rarer and rarer and harder to find because of the rarity of them and the availability of issues where if they are wrecked, they're not repairable and they become scrap. So here it is, the 2010 BMW HP2 Sport. Just all the exposed carbon. And so this is painted carbon, so all underneath this is all painted. I almost thought about having Eddie strip all the paint off and just make this all carbon, but then I was like, I just can't. I can't. So we're gonna get this thing nice and cleaned up, make this thing ready to be eaten off of. But again, thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you, Stewie62, for all of the support and being here for the HP2 Sport. We really have enjoyed it on the channel, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. But if you guys are interested in it, hit Zach up at Eurocycle. But thank you again. We've got to get out here on the streets again soon, but we're heading to the track in a couple weeks back down to Button Willow. So stay tuned, do the normal, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and then ring the bell notification. Bell notification is going to give you future notifications. Maybe we'll buy another ultra rare. So stick around, and we'll see you guys next video. Bye, guys.